And you've just heard You Show Me Ways from the album Strange is the Way by M. John Henry. And I'm joined by Martin now. Hello there.
Hey, yeah, how you doing, Ali?
I'm really well, thanks. And before we talk about the album, can you tell us a little bit about that track, You Show Me Ways?
Yeah, well, that was the most recent single, and that song was one that I wrote when I was kind of preparing stuff with my family for my dad's 70th. So we had been going through like family photographs and stuff like that. So it's quite a reflective song. I'd been thinking, specifically about how old photographs fade,
Mm.
and compared to the kind of digital archives that we have now, things don't really pass like that. Things generally look kind of fresh until you have a hard drive crash or something like
But it's so
that.
true. I've got albums of family photographs. One, there's not that many of them compared to, how many pictures are taken now. But also, some of them you can barely see because they've faded so badly over
Oh,
the.
aye, yeah. And I guess that's like the songs maybe talking about that, like, and how that affects memory. And then, getting to like my age and being an old dad myself and stuff like that. And, you're reliving and recreating a lot of what you experienced. Um, you know.
And you say that it's a reflective track. Would you say that's true about the whole album?
Um, no, I don't think it is entirely, but there is a certain kind of fondness for the music that I grew up with from my parents as well, like, kind of 60s folk rock revival stuff, like Neil Young and all that. But there are, it was really a creative journey of my own, and I don't tend to try and kind of look back with too much nostalgia.
So,
If I do look back, it's kind of felt.
yeah. Are there themes you think on the album, though?
Um, Albums come together on their own terms a wee bit. That's the deliberate approach to the album, was that it would be a record that was kind of guitar based, and that it wouldn't have much synthesis. It wouldn't have much any programming, I don't think, on this record. Because I was kind of known on Droza for, mixing the kind of electronic and the kind of folk and acoustic indie stuff. And I wanted to separate those a little bit. So this record was, and an approach had a theme. Lyrically, I think all the songs are kind of their own thing, you
Mhm.
know, so they did go off in different ways.
How do you feel about folk asking you about lyrics? The reason I ask is that I have spoken to people that say, well, it's up to listeners to make up their own mind. But how do you feel about that?
I think artists are always infuriating, because they always say that, and I say that as well. But I think I feel so privileged if anybody's interested that it's fine to talk a little bit more, a bit intent, a wee bit. But I don't think really what the artist has to say about the song makes the song any better. You know?
Yeah, I guess it's just it says it is an interest, to kind of hear from the horse's mouth. But I do understand the opposite reaction going, well, I put them out there. It's up to you how you interpret them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because that's admirable of certain people and artists. I'm thinking like David Lynch or something like that, like just nothing that say nothing. But I don't know. I guess I just feel like any interest in the stuff that I do is great, and I think it's very human for people to ask, what does this mean, or what were you thinking about here?
And how did you record it? Because it's a solo album, but are there other people involved? Was it studio or home, or what was the situation?
It came out of lockdown, so I started it during lockdowns, yeah. So it was all recorded at home. So I don't have a big studio. I mean, I've got this little box room where I do all the mixing and stuff in, and everything was recorded in the rooms in the house, running mics into the living room and stuff like that. So I tracked it all myself and then sent it to Robert Dallas Gray, Robert from Life Without Buildings, who's a friend and a collaborator of mine, and he mixed it. So I think he made it sound like a studio record. So I'm really pleased.
And you say this came out of lockdown, but were these songs that were all written during that period, or are some of them older than that?
Some are older, yeah. There's some really old things. Like Fortlet was actually an old recording, which was a kind of demo that I brought for this record. I mean, I think it's about 15 years old, and I just kind of dug it out. But then when we were working on the record, it just it had a kind of element of kind of liveness to it, and we added a little bit strings and stuff to it. But that is actually the old recording. Um, and other things, yeah, like come from like demos that have bounced about in DeRosa, never found a place, and some are brand new as well. Heart of Coal was written when DeRosa had a residential uh, project at Summerlee Museum
All
of
right.
Industrial Life, and we did a concert there back in 2016, I think it was, and we wrote a bunch of new songs. And Heart of Coal was an acoustic song that I wrote at that time, but it was just a kind of bare bones thing. It wasn't quite finished, although I did perform a version of it just on the acoustic at the show at the museum. So that sat and eventually found a place in this. But everything else, yeah, I think is quite new.
So it wasn't as though you had songs that were specifically written for a solo album. Some of them were tracks that you had on other projects.
I would say so. So like, there's probably about two or three which bounced around in DeRosa and things like that, and the rest were written as solo songs. Yep.
And when you came to make the album, you said Robert helped to produce it and get the final sound on it. Did you always have in your head what this was going to sound like, or did you need that input as well?
Um, I think I always had a sound in my head. I knew I knew the kind of drum sound that I wanted, and I got a decent kind of like Harvest by Neil Young kick and snare sound. So once I had that, and I always quite like, honest, raw kind of acoustic guitar sounds and things like that. So I've done enough home recording and stuff, and that I can get there on my own a little bit. But in terms of the actual technical mixing of it, I really needed someone else to take it and do it because, well, I guess I have mixed records myself, but
Mhm.
I guess I need time between, and also I just wanted it taken off my hands. So Robert did a great job. He sent me rough mixes. Most of the time I was like, yeah, it's finished, and if there was any tweaks to be done, it was his. He would be like, actually, there's a couple of things I could improve, but I didn't really have any notes for Robert, so it pretty much sounded great. And he even added a couple of bits and bobs of like lap steel and organ and things like that. So it just came back better. Yep.
And I mean, you've collaborated with him before. I'm thinking, when is
Yeah,
the two of you? So is this? It's a relationship that works. It's a comfortable musical relationship.
it really is. I mean, so yeah, so when was a project that we had started before I started on this record, but was those two albums and some EPs we did, they were coming out while I was starting to record this as well. So it's quite interesting that Robert's been kind of there all along, just as someone to bounce things off of and check things with, because he's really honest and I really trust his ideas and his taste. He's just got one of those voracious appetites for music. It's
Mhm.
just constantly, like yourself, just constantly just get new music that he's listening to, building it in this amazing kind of library in his head. You know, if I say like, oh, this sounds like a bit like, and I'll mention some Velvet Underground track, and he'll know every Velvet Underground track and knows on everyone, or whatever.
Is this the first John Henry album?
It's the first John Henry album, aye. So it's a kind of a reboot of the
Uh,
solo thing, a soft reboot.
because you're certainly I know you as collaborating with others, whether it's in band at DeRosa or Henry and Fleetwood or When and other. So it's a different way of working? Is it a kind of, I don't know, perhaps a more scary way of working, just doing it on your own for the majority of the time?
It's no scary, no, because I- I've done well. I did a solo album in 2011, a Martin John Henry album,
Yeah.
and I did a self-released one in about 2017, called Some Evil Ways, which was much rawer and it was home recorded and mixed and mostly kind of one takes and things like that. So no, I'm quite confident as a solo person. I would say is live is still quite new in terms of like I did a bunch of DeRosa was busy live, but
Mhm.
then that kind of came to an end, and as a solo person through lockdowns and all that, the live stuff has dwindled and it's now starting to build up again, and I feel like I'm a learner again about live performance, and I mean I'm happy to admit I'm pretty shy.
Mhm.
So when it comes to live performance, it's weird because we did hundreds of gigs as the Rosa, and I could step up no problem. We were away, and now I'm getting nervy again. So
And is that
you know,
because it is just yourself and guitar on stage?
yeah, it's frustrating. I think it is stage fright,
Mhm.
because you can rehearse all you like and be great on your own, and then once you've got those nerves, it's it's like this fog between you and the connection you want to make with people and the music, and it's trying to find ways to get over that, and I think it's just doing it more,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Well, I've seen
So
it live, and you would never know from the audience's point of view that's the case. But as someone who also gets anxiety doing things on stage, it can be quite debilitating as well. You
yeah,
know, that kind of voice that's slightly elsewhere, and you think you beat it.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you're trying to remember a million notes and things.
It's like patting your head and rubbing your
Yeah.
tummy.
It's like, hello.
What's going on here? But so are there going to be more live gigs coming?
Yes, there's going to be some stuff in August and September as well. We've got there's a studio gig in Hamilton at Gargle Blast Studios, which is the record label that put out my
Yeah.
album. Um, so that's going to be in the 16th of August. That's going to be really nice because studio, it's going to bring your own booze type of deal, nice and relaxed. And Robert's playing there as well. And then I've got an in-store on the 17th of August in Voxbox in Edinburgh. Um, and in Skye, we're up in Skye doing a Whin concert, a one-off Whin concert
Okay.
as well on September the 6th. You don't have to get all those in, but I just thought
No, that's good.
I'd.
And oh yeah, Gargle Blast Records. That's who released DeRosa, wasn't it? Back in the day.
Cargo Blast Records is a guy called Andy Miller and his friend Sean Tallamy. And Andy Miller is an engineer who's worked there since it started. So that means he was there when it became a studio. And that same building then became Chem 19, which was Chemical Underground Studio for years. And then they moved to different premises, and Andy and Sean bought over the business and kept it as a recording studio and rehearsal rooms. And from there, a label as well. Now, way back at the start, when I was like really wee guy, just starting out at DeRosa, they liked us from the start, and they signed us. So yeah, so like the first two DeRosa albums, Mend and Prevention, are Gargle Blast Records, but then they were licensed to Chemical because
Mhm.
Chemical were still there at the time, and they knew us as well and loved the records. So it was a complicated thing. But it worked out, and so Gargle Blast they licensed those records away to Chemical. So it was nice to go back to Gargle Blast as a solo guy and work with Andy and Sean, who are like some of my best mates, and put out
And
some records for them.
and I mean that's a reminder that you've kind of made and released music for a while now. You've been doing this for a wee bit. When was the first
Aye, I'm
DeRosa
old.
record? Early 2000s?
Uh, first, the first Rosa single was 2003.
Yeah.
That was camera. I still get people saying you're the camera guy, even though it wasn't like a hit or anything. It was just like there was like camera. Um, yeah, we went to London to play for one of the last couple of years of Rosa gigs. We went to London to play for Robert Smith's Meltdown
Right.
at the South Bank Centre, And I walked in. Who was it? It was a Radio One DJ. I think it was Hugh Stevens or somebody. You're the camera guy. It's like 15 years later or something like that. I'm like, Jesus, okay. Yeah, I'll be the
That's kind of
camera
nice,
guy.
though, you know. It's got a long life. But I was going to ask you how making and releasing has changed over time.
How making for
Yeah, making music might, I don't know, is it the same? Is it the same for you? Certainly, I think releasing music might have changed.
oh, it's totally different. I think um well, there's a couple of aspects to that. Is in terms of my personal process of making music is probably pretty similar in terms of, it's still play. It's still me, and I mean like child's play, it's still having fun and making noise and finding a feeling and then going with that feeling with the lyrics and whatever else comes. So I don't think there's much different in terms of how I on my own invent and make music because it's again just play. Collaboration's different. And I think that as a younger guy, I just did not have the skills to communicate with other people. I was like beyond shy. I was like I found it hard to get a band together and all that stuff and manage people and manage relationships with people. And our band, kind of infamously amongst our friends, was just I think we had about 12 or 15 different people in the first 2 or 3 years. You know what I mean?
What
Because
the fall?
I know it was mad. So there's quite a lot of people could say that they were in early DeRosa. Um, in terms of the industry stuff, that's something that I think really shaped the kind of trajectory of DeRosa because when I was thinking about that, okay, the first single, 2003, and then you've got like we went away and recorded the album. It was finished about 2005, came out 2006. And I mean, think of all the stuff that's happening there with like MP3 and the
Mhm.
download revolution, and then like the iPhone coming out that year. And I'm not bad mouthing anybody, but you could see all the people around us in terms of label and promoters and everybody really catching up, you know, really, because all the ways that they were used to were, all physical,
Yeah,
all the kind of like pretty much just the way the industry worked from the 90s and the early 2000s, and it was all just going out the window. And I
yeah,
think that was it. You know, we went through all the marketing and stuff a new band does, and it was great and it was really exciting. But I just think things were moving so quickly, you know. And then I, it's interesting for me because as an older guy, like an older, like I'm in my 40s, but I feel like I'm learning DIY
yeah,
promotion and bits and pieces of online stuff that is completely native to people that are the generation below now. So I'm still catching up with that because I had people to do it for me.
yeah,
I was like maybe last few years of bands being signed and you paid other people. The label did the things behind the scenes. You turned up to the interviews, gigs, and that was pretty much it. I did not know how to promote my own records at all until much later.
yeah. That's I think that's right. The timeline is that the big promotion that was done by other people or done by the label seems to have gone pretty.
Yeah, yeah. Our people are just this. I mean, for any kind of smaller level musician band, I mean, you're spending all the money. If you're doing it yourself or you're sharing it with a small label or whatever, you're spending all the money just in production costs and getting vinyl made. There's no much left for
Yeah,
promo, so that's why there's so much people doing it themselves now. And to be honest with you, I can't complain because I've done two. Last year I did the Jewel Scheme record, which I've got here as well.
yeah,
This guy, and that was the first one I'd done a promotion myself on, and then this record, and you can feel that there is something coming back because you can feel it. It's months of sending stuff out, and it's really disheartening because you don't really hear much. There'll be a few friendly voices. Thanks for that. We'll schedule it for this.
yeah,
The rest of the time, you're just waiting for 8, 12 weeks to see if anything happened. And it's nice that we've got to the week of release and there is a few, reviews, a few people asking for interviews and stuff like that. But yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, no, I can imagine it is. And if you're building up to that over a period of time and there's so much music getting released, often from my point of view, you think, yeah, I will mention that, but nearer the time that it comes out,
Yeah,
and that's when you might get replies and you think, oh yeah, that was all that what was worth it. And I
yeah,
think
aye.
it probably is, but yeah. And are there future plans that you can tell us about at all? Are there other collaborations coming up or even other solo projects?
Well, there's likely to be another Jewel Scheme EP this year. We've got a few songs that we had left over kind of from the last record that are unfinished. And beyond that, there's going to be another solo album which I'm trying my best to get out by Christmas, which is going to be just me revisiting the early songs.
Oh, wow.
So mainly the Rosa material and a couple of old things that didn't ever see the light of day. So that's already recorded. So I'm just trying to figure out a release for that, whether it's going to be a label thing or if I do that myself. But yeah, I'm planning on getting that out this year as well.
Oh, that's
And then
great.
next year is the 20th anniversary of Mend, which is the first Rosa record, which never had a vinyl release.
Hmm.
So that's Gargle Blaster are going to do a reissue of that. So that's that'll be getting compiled and organized and mastered and all that stuff. So yeah, pretty busy for the next while, and then there'll be Whin stuff as well. We've got loads of that stuff to finish. So
Excellent. So plenty to look forward to.
yep.
Martin, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to me. I think
Oh,
the album's
thanks.
fantastic. I've been listening to it a lot the last couple of weeks.
Oh, thanks so much. It means a lot, and thanks for your time.
This is M. John Henry, and I'll watch from here.